Thank you.
Okay. Oh no, we're live. Yeah. Oh. Hi, how are you?
Hello. Yes, you're here. Testing, 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 testing. Just to confirm, once he's on my one, he can turn his PC off. Yeah, he can close YouTube. When he ends Zoom, it will end the YouTube guys. Okay, so Dylan, you can actually.
Is this recording or just live?
This is live, but there will be a recording later.
I don't know about you, but I need that jacket in my size.
I was like, I immediately thought it was best number. And it'd be like, yes. The fact
I know.
Yep.
See, yeah. I can't help it. It's like a reflex. Smile with your eye. Yeah. There's a lot of
Yeah. Now, did you make that yourself?
my friend. We're over there.
find it warmer than just the yeah. That's the drawback.
You do have to
Oh, let's see what the mask is up.
yeah, well, like people recommend it for your job.
Oh.
Yeah, you take like
Take off that. It'll fall apart, right? That's good for clogging up. It's funny, I up until today, I haven't really had problems with that clogging. For whatever reason, I decided today.
Don't you have anything private on you?
I love the fan cast.
yes.
So, I think, guys, see this now? See this? This is what a fried curly team. Curly team. Oh, yeah. All the swag. What do oh, don't go there. All the hello, how are you? And I honestly, I think it's cool. Or like it's kind of off to the side, like it's like center. It really, it's like showing like your prioritizing.
Yeah, I see that.
It's a nice video you sent
So there we go. Good afternoon, everyone. It's my honor to serve as the chair of the board of directors of Halifax Pride. My name is Morgan Manzer, and I'm going to be guiding you through our program this afternoon. First off, I'd like to officially welcome you to the 2020 Halifax Pride Festival. And I'd like to extend a special welcome to all of those who are watching online this afternoon. So there's a camera right here, and this is a virtual event as well as an in-person event. Halifax Pride is dedicated to providing safer spaces that are accessible, inclusive, free from oppression, harassment, and discrimination. In this space, we will treat each other with respect and dignity, regardless of our age, race, gender expression, gender identity, sexual orientation, levels of ability, and all of our other diverse identities. Pride stands in solidarity with the Black Lives Matter movement to end police violence across North America. African Nova Scotians and Black people have the right to live free from oppression, violence, and systemic marginalization. It's important to say, queer Black Lives Matter. Black trans lives matter. And Black Lives Matter. And at Halifax Pride, we believe every word of it, and we need to back that up with action. We know that, and that's an ongoing commitment that we're going to make. Obviously, as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic, we're taking extra precautions to ensure that everyone is safe for all of our in-person events. Everyone is asked to wear a mask while on site. If you do not have a mask, one can be provided to you. Right at the station here at the back, our volunteer is kindly waving their hand. So you can make your way over there if you don't have a mask. We do ask, while people are in this physical space, that you maintain physical distance from those folks who are not within your bubble. Please note as well, there is an accessible viewing area down right in the front, to my right, your left, for those who require seating or a clear line of sight to our ASL interpreter. And now it is my privilege to invite my friend, Duman Young, to give a few remarks. So Duman Young QC is an accomplished lawyer who received his Queen's Counsel designation in 2019. Duman works as an assistant professor in Indigenous Studies and Political Science at Cape Breton University. Among his many research interests is two-spiritedness and community-based health and social research. In August 2017, Duman was qualified as an expert witness on Nanook laws and decolonizing perspectives as part of his testimony for the National Inquiry into Missing and Murdered Indigenous Women and Girls. Presently, Duman is enrolled in his JSD program at the University of Arizona. Duman was called to the bar as a lawyer in June 2001, becoming the first Mi'kmaq-speaking lawyer in Nova Scotia. 19 years on from that, Duman is now the first vice president of the Nova Scotia Barrister Society. And certainly, I would be remiss to not mention that we all owe a real debt of gratitude to Duman for his activism that allowed all of us queer folks to be here today. Duman participated in the protest march that eventually led to what we now know as Halifax Pride. So I'd like to welcome my friend Duman Young.
Yeah, come over here. We can sit in the chairs.
Sometimes when I hear, people introduce me, I'm like thinking to myself, wow, who's that person, right? I like to meet that one. And just recently, I did a brief interview with CBC Radio, and they said we're doing small segments with notable Nova Scotians, and I'm like, who are you talking about, right? Anyway, sometimes you just can't believe that it's been done. Yes, there's. I think we're going to get some feedback here. Maybe I should go over there. Oh, this is fine. Okay. I got a little bit of script here, and I'm going to go a little bit into it. And I apologize to the interpreters here, because this is going to be in Mi'kmaq. So, Weskoidag kulal nuegadik no makaha makamige mana iginuwatek. Wala makamige ang kunadasik wala dan teluisiko kinamaduel mantakodi ugabas tukin kawe kan wapanagi kwa ano pulustuwegwa pestum kwa abanaki kwa panapsko kwa mimajuan niyo kimidip uladan kamegwe aglasiewichu pegisido 1693. Isya ano dimakan ang pugam kowel is na tepludakan mo edek no iginamuwa da sikkan makamigemi no uladan abo na masik majuwa nasik migwapta sikoy wapnagi ko wisun kowe kisi tu Ebrudahan, which is wala man din power. Medj ma juguado ko isko. Maju padmo isko. Which it wuladan isko wetel widasik imset when na is wali ang kaya sukin kisi akanod makan ko tan elma mawaduki. Despite all my academic activities, one of the things I have difficulty in is reading Mi'kmaq, and I have to sound it out phonetically. That's one of my goals, is to be able to read it fluently. And so it's a bit difficult, and at times. But especially when you're a little bit nervous. And I'm thinking to myself, I'm the one who wrote this. I can't even write my own thing, right? But basically, I'm going to. We are located in Mi'kmaq, the ancestral and unceded territory of the Mi'kmaq. This territory is covered by the covenant chain of treaties, also known as the treaties, that the one made out of the Mi'kmaq first signed with the British Crown, starting in 1693. These peace and friendship treaties do not and did not deal with the surrender of land and resources, but recognized the tribe's title and established the rules for the relationships between the parties. I'm going to go back to that. Even though they told me it's only 5 minutes here, I'm going to be speaking. I'm going to come back to that word, relationship. These rules still govern how we are to treat each other today. Everyone, is on this land is covered under these treaties. And it is for that reason we say we are all treaty people. As the co-founder of the Wabanaki Two-Spirit Alliance, we have worked in a spirit of peace and friendship as treaty people to bring together our strengths, knowledge, lived experiences, and tenacity to always move forward. The Alliance built pathways to address the needs of two-spirited people and Indigenous LGBTQ+ people in Mi'kmaq, which includes areas of Nova Scotia, New Brunswick, PEI, Newfoundland, Gaspé region of Quebec, and parts of Maine. Our resilience is our drive, and we acknowledge the generations that have lived before us with the current cohort and the ones to come. We act on their behalf. We cannot do this alone. We recognize the wealth of human resources, skills, organizational foundations, challenges, and successes that our sister organizations have established over time in our territory. Now we have built channels of communication, trust, and mutual respect to work collaboratively on projects to promote awareness of two-spirited people and to share our common needs and to take collective actions to extend our knowledge sources and to diversify our culture and social understandings for all two-spirited people and all LGBTQ+ people, folks. We acknowledge extraordinary celebrations, and we are aware of relationships and kinships that need to be fostered in order to contribute to the everlasting process of reconciliation. Halifax Pride is our adjunct family member in our process of building treaty relationships with local and regional organizations. As such, Halifax Pride has extended numerous supports in our efforts to bring two-spirits to attend Pride events in the city, but also to promote Pride activities in our Mi'kmaq groups and communities. In 2015, we hosted the third ever Pride Parade to be hosted in a First Nation community in Canada, and it was the first Pride event in Atlantic region. As my colleague and good friend Morgan had mentioned, part of this work is to be able to create a new generation of leaders. Yes, there's a whole group of folks, and I was just thinking, when we come to these events like this, I see friends like Jim here, who, as he's signing right here, mind you, he used to dance on the roomless floor. That's bell ringing for Jim. And also to Eric. I remember Eric was the best at the whole Mohawk. So anyway, there's more stories I can tell you all about you, and ask me those stories too. There's many of us too. And I say if there, and Bill was here somewhere. I saw Bill there too, right? But as we get older and we get into a little bit of it, our aim in the Wabanaki Two-Spirit Alliance and elsewhere is to build a generation of leaders to carry the crown to the next generation. We need more active citizenship and leadership among our own Two Spirits and everyone else. We strive to establish an alliance that continues to build bridges, pathways, waterways, or trails between our Two Spirits from our communities to feel welcomed, supported, respected, and loved everywhere on our territory. It's only through treaty relations and collective actions with Halifax Pride and regional organizations with the right resources we can achieve these goals. Now, that's the speech. For those of you who know me, that when Morgan told me that you should come here and talk for 5 minutes, I'm a lawyer. It's pretty hard to talk for 5 minutes. And as an activist, it's also pretty hard for me to talk without mentioning a few things. You know, we're in an era where we need to change the way things have been done. This change, has been brought up through many ways. COVID-19 pandemic, the Black Lives Movement, the shooting of Indigenous peoples, the names of Rodney Levi, Chantel Moore, James Simon, Bolton Bushy, and Brady Francis are just some of the names that the folks have been killed there. It is all about intersectionality. As we move into Pride, one of the things for the theme of Pride is voices amplified. You can give me a platform and I will amplify my voice. It may be quiet, but it will be heard in a way. This intersectionality, and I quote an old friend of mine, Anouk, and he said one time to us, the place where two or more discriminations meet, the place where two or more prejudice, the place where two or more racisms meet is a very dangerous place. And that's where we are at as Two-Spirited people and as people of color and as Black LGBTQ people. We are in those spaces, and those spaces can be a very dangerous space, but it also is a very celebratory space. We are proud of who we are. We have been here. People talk about the land acknowledgement. Almost have been here. We have been here since time immemorial. And in the gay and lesbian movement, the history of it, from the Apple marches in the 1970s, the Atlantic provinces, political lesbians for equality. Only women were there. To the foundation of the formation of the Gay Alliance for Equality. An only woman from Subagnagari was one of the founding members. To the marches in 1988, I was there. We have always been here. People of color, Black LGBT folks, and Two-Spirited people have always been here. But we need to be sometimes that we need our voices to be heard and amplified. So people talk about a new awakening, a new awareness of issues. We have calls for action, the TRC, the Truth and Reconciliation calls for actions. We have calls for reform, calls to defund the police, calls for justice. We have calls for healing. Really, all of these are all about calls for renewed relationship. Our treaties tell us what that relationship should be. That's why, for the last couple of years, I've told Halifax Pride, we need treaty education, treaty relationship building. Our treaties are more than just about peace and friendship. They're also about economic, trade, relationships. That's what it's all about, It's time, and I urge every single one of you, your homework is to go and read and think and think and meditate and contemplate those treaties, every single one of us, because those treaties belong to each and every one of us. And while you're doing that, take time to read some of the reports going back to the Marshall Inquiry, 1980s. Some of those recommendations are unfulfilled. We also have RCAP. It's been 30 years since the Oka crisis. I remember protesting Oka here. Right in this same, this place has welcomed protests. We had our voices since then. Out of Oka came RCAP, the Royal Commission on Aboriginal Peoples, their recommendations. The one thing surprisingly about RCAP is how fast it was ignored. The TRC, the Truth and Reconciliation reports, the calls to action, the 94 calls to action. I've been fighting and bringing calls number 27, 28 to the legal profession. We just released a new report from the Federation of Law Societies. Moving ahead, how we're going to implement these. Let's think about how we're going to read and get cultural competency done. The murdered and missing Indigenous women and girls. It's been over a year now. Still, it's all these calls to justice that are there. There are very specific calls in a very specific chapter related to two-spirited people, and particularly two-spirited trans women and other trans women of color. It's all there, the recommendations, the calls to justice. It's just up to us to bring it into force and bring it into the treaty relationship. Just last week, we held a National Indigenous Justice Summit. After the killings, the shootings, a group of Indigenous lawyers from all across Canada, in 1 week, we were able to pull together, hundreds of lawyers, Indigenous lawyers from all across Canada, and we listened to the voices of the families, Fulton Bushy, Chantal Moore, Rodney Levi, and Brady Francis. And then we did presentations on what can be happening. We have a 10-point action plan. Everybody needs to read that 10-point action plan. And I'm going to send a copy over to my good friend Morgan, who will post it on the website. I don't know where he's going to post it, but he's going to post it. Meanwhile, I'm going to also send it to Cheryl, who's going to take it over to the mayor. I got her commitment to do that. And where's Andy? And he's going to get it too. These 10 points are right there, but basically they're a summarization of all the recommendations since Marshall. We know what we got to do. We just have to do it. So everyone, my last words on this, we all have a part to play in this treaty relationship. We all have a part to play in making the world a better and safer place for two-spirited people and for Black, gays, and lesbians and trans women of color. And that's what we're going to do. Some of us will march, some of us will be in the boardrooms, some of us will be in the rooms. And I think I also presented to EGAL just last week. And I told them we need a national justice strategy on two-spirit LGBTQ people. And I will be holding and Helen Kennedy from EGAL. She's going to work on it and we're going to do it. And that we need your help, everyone's help. But Halifax Pride is also about celebration. It's a party. Whether it's going to be a virtual party, we're going to have the party. Because sometimes we don't have the luxury of having a party. But today, we will party. Wala yung considerable amount.
Thank you so much, Duma. It's always a pleasure. And something you said really struck me is that Halifax Pride really is a platform to hear queer voices. So thank you so much for sharing yours. Certainly it's been heard here, and we hope you'll continue to share it, because I always learn a lot. And I'll do whatever you'd like. Post it wherever you'd like, so let me know. To everyone else, I'd really like to, on behalf of the entire Halifax Pride team, thank you all for attending in person and online. Typically, our flag raising is the first official event of the Halifax Pride Festival, but this is no typical year, as you know, and we kicked it off today earlier with our noon hour panel series. And I'd like to thank our really exceptional panelists who are here this afternoon, Jordy, John, Cheryl. They all took part. They all took part in our panel, Flattening the Curve of Racism for Two Spirits, creating racial, gender, and sexual diverse allies in and out of the LGBTQ+ community. And I'd like to also thank, obviously, everyone who attended online, and I encourage everyone to go to our website, halifaxpride.com, and check out the rest of our noon hour panel series tomorrow and next week. So, as I said, we all know that Pride is different this year, but I am certainly prouder than ever. I am proud to be part of this community that is so resilient, and it's really come together in very difficult circumstances to organize a remarkable reimagined 2020 Pride Festival. We knew that Halifax Pride couldn't be canceled. Pride can't be canceled, and we will prove that over the next 11 days as we come together, safely of course, to share moments of remembrance, share moments of celebration, as Duma mentioned, share moments of learning, and of course, share moments of protest. Halifax Pride began as a protest, and it remains a protest against systems of oppression. As long as there are queer people existing and resisting, there will always be pride. And I'd like to just take a moment to thank all of the folks who make Halifax Pride possible. First, we have a wonderful board of directors and wonderful staff who put in tremendous work to make sure this festival happens. As well as you'll see in the orange shirts, so many volunteers, even this year, can't come together in order to make all of these events happen. So I'm really grateful to all of those folks. So this festival really could not be possible without the support of a wide variety of community partners. I would like to especially thank all of our business partners who are continuing to support this festival. We recognize that these are obviously challenging time plate, and there's financial strain on all of our business partners. I would like to take an opportunity to thank and recognize those who continue to support Pride, even in these exceptional financial times. I would particularly like to thank our rainbow sponsor, TD, for their ongoing partnership. And many folks would know Tina Murphy. Tina can't make it today, but really grateful for all the work that she does for us and all of the efforts at TD. They have certainly been steadfast in their work with us at Halifax Pride and many other prides across this country. I would also like to thank our other government partners, the City of Halifax, the Province of Nova Scotia, and the Departments of Community, Culture, and Heritage for their support of this festival. And now, it's my honor to dance to the music. I'd like to welcome the MP for Halifax, Andy Fillmore.
Thanks, Morgan and Duman. Thank you so much for framing the purpose of our being here today so beautifully. It really sets the tone so very well. I mean, what a day. So here we are celebrating Pride. We're affirming that Black Lives Matter, the importance of reconciliation. We're doing that next to a rainbow truck in front of a Pride flag on the front hall of City Hall during a global pandemic. I think we're doing a pretty good job here today. So thanks everybody for coming out. It's just so very important. Great, it's great to be with you. I'm Andy Fillmore, the Member of Parliament here in Halifax. And thank you, Mayor Savage, for having us on the front lawn of City Hall in Mi'kma'ki, where, as again, Duma said, we are all treaty people. This evening here in the heart of Halifax, we're coming together in solidarity as members of the 2S LGBTQ plus community, as your allies, all to celebrate the achievements of queer advocates and to recommit ourselves to the fight for true equality here at home in Canada and across the world. I want to take a moment to recognize Game Changers 902, this year's Pride Ambassadors. What an absolutely fantastic choice. As many of us have, I've had the privilege to work with Kate and Dorico at Strayvon. For me, it's been over the last several years on a range of issues facing the Black community here in Halifax. And I have learned enormously from their counsel and from their wisdom and from their generosity and from their friendship. You know, in a moment of reckoning like the world is in right now, when Black communities and their allies are standing up to say, this is enough, we must do better. Halifax is so fortunate to have these powerhouses leading the charge for positive change. So I applaud Halifax Pride for using its platform to support the work of Game Changers 902 and the broader Black Lives movement. So thank you for that. Of course, we collectively also have to recognize our amazing Halifax Pride team, the volunteers, the board, the executive, in particular, Morgan, the chair, Vice Chair Jess, Adam, the tireless executive director. We spent a lot of time on the phone. Well done, Adam. Thank you all in all of your various ways that you do it for bringing us together for this week and all your work all year round to support 2S LGBTQ plus community and the marginalized voices there. And here in Halifax, it's a pleasure to work with you year over year on this. Now, over the last 30 or more years, this festival has steadily evolved. And as we heard, once the first march was where some felt they had to cover their faces for fear of being persecuted. Today, we come together with great pride to raise this flag high above City Hall for all to see and celebrate. And across the country, across those years, we've also made important progress for 2S LGBTQ plus rights. I've shared before that one of my proudest moments being your MP in the House of Commons was to stand up and vote for the historic Trans Rights Bill, C-16, which protects Canadians from discrimination on the basis of gender identity or gender expression. But make no mistake, there is no end to the fight of discrimination that we can see, at least right now. This fight goes on, and there's a lot of hard work that has to be done. We can't forget that Pride isn't just about celebration, although it is about celebration. It's also about activism. It's about fighting for causes that matter for this community here at home and abroad, because, my friends, Canada has an important role to play in the world as well. Canada has shown itself to be a world leader in 2S LGBTQ plus rights, and this is a source of pride for millions of Canadians from coast to coast to coast, and that must continue because, I hope you'll agree, the world needs more Canada. And that's why, thank you, it sure does, now more than ever. That's why we've made protecting and promoting the human rights of 2S LGBTQ plus persons globally one of our key foreign policy objectives. Our work continues, we will not stop. On behalf of the Government of Canada, I want to thank Halifax's 2S LGBTQ plus community for your activism, for your bravery, for your compassion, for making the world a brighter, happier place. Merci beaucoup et bonne fierté. Now, let's let that pride flag fly. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Andy, and it is always a pleasure working with you. So this next part is just really special to me because I have the tremendous honor to introduce our 2020 Halifax Pride Ambassadors. And I personally am really in awe of these folks. As a queer Black person myself, I've watched as we have had this national, international, and very local conversation about systemic discrimination and marginalization. It was painful and overwhelming for Black folks, but the Game Changers 902 had the courage and determination to step up and lead. And we are so lucky that they did. Game Changers 902 are an anti-racism group co-founded by Kate McDonald, Trayvon Clayton, and Dorico Simmons. Their work focused on fighting oppression and systemic racism here in Nova Scotia. Already, they've undertaken projects such as a mid-June rally against systemic racism and police brutality, and now they're spearheading efforts calling on white people to use their platform to continue the fight for racial justice. The really important work of Game Changers 902 deserves to be recognized, celebrated, and amplified. The work of Kate, Trayvon, and Dorico is truly inspirational. Halifax Pride Society is so incredibly honored to welcome Game Changers 902 as the Pride Ambassadors for 2020.
Hello. So firstly, I'd like to say that we're obviously missing Trey, but he's with us in our hearts, a little baby brother. My name is Kate McDonald, and first I would like to acknowledge that we are in Jubuktuk on unceded, unsurrendered Mi'kmaq territory. The treaties that govern this land are referred to as the Peace and Friendship Treaties. When we think about what it means to uphold these treaties, I think the one question that I have is how does government uphold their end of the bargain? I think it's fair to say that the government at large has had its opportunity to govern what has been popularized as Canada, and it's time for them to give the land back. It's time to listen to Indigenous voice in regards to decision-making in order to save our future. As an African Nova Scotian person, my ancestors would have come here involuntarily and been left to settle on unfamiliar land. Alongside the Mi'kmaq, they learned and shared skills and language. Our thriving and surviving here was linked to deep solidarity. I show up in the name of gratitude. It's a wonder that we're able to gather here today in the name of Marsha P. Johnson and Sylvia Riviera and all of those names who were lost, the grandmothers of this movement. Their energy roots us and directs us for how we should be holding pride globally. In the spirit of protest, in the spirit of this work not being done, no one is free until we're all free, which is why it's also so important that I'm standing here with my one brother, missing one brother, but my brothers in spirit, which is why it's so important that they are here fearlessly showing their support in active participation against homophobia, transphobia, and discrimination. My guy. Our liberation is tied. It is necessary we centralize Black voices during Pride, and it's necessary that we also lead by example. We need the liberation of queer and trans folks to not be separated from conversations with anti-Black racism. The systems holding us down are only slightly different in equation and the exact same in regards to desired outcome. What do we want tomorrow to look like? How do we want these moments to be spoken about 20 years from now? Let's push each other for liberation, to fight for it, to be unapologetic, to be creative. We must address the ways in which we mimic the structures and systems of power within our own communities and uproot these poisonous legacies. They aren't even ours to begin with. We must plant new and different seeds for new flowers only we know how to tend and grow. Black, queer, and trans women and femmes created this space. Now, what space will we create for them? The urgency around Black Lives Matter is for every single Black life. No exceptions, no excuses, and no one left behind. Regis, George, Brianna, Tony, David, Elijah, Ria, Nina, Malcolm, Robert, Bree, Shaki, Drea, Brayla, Mercy, and Tatiana. Are you tired yet of names and hashtags, of babies, women, and elders being lost? Are you tired yet of living amongst murderers who are supposed to protect us? Black lives still matter. Black lives have always mattered. It's not a trend. And we expect you to pull up every time. And we expect you to keep that same energy every time. Don't ask us how. Just watch us do it, as we've always done. Society has tried their very best to erase us, to white us out, but we are the new seeds. We are the flowers that grew despite everything, the dandelions in the sidewalk cracks. Never forget who bear the battle scars of these moments, these movements. Say their names. Happy Pride.
Imagine knowing who you are your whole life and the world not accepting it. So you hide behind tears, broken smiles, knowing all along who you are. Imagine being called the wrong pronouns, even though you've made yourself very clear. Imagine being terrified to come out to your friends and family in fear of losing them. Imagine being ridiculed for who you are, who you love, and how you love. Imagine applying for a job, filling out a form and only seeing he or she and wondering, where do you fit in? Just imagine. Imagine hearing Black Lives Matter and questioning, are they talking about your Black life too? Just imagine. This is not my lived experience, but it is the experience of people I love, people I call family, and people who are friends to me. Let's live our life lovingly, without judgment, and in acceptance. And let's all come together. Let's live pridefully. It's not enough for us to simply try to do something. It's not enough to try. We have to do. We have to do. We have people in positions, and as Kate says, government is a set of choices. Leadership positions are a set of choices that people make every single day. We cannot sit back and choose to make choices that oppress people. As Kate said, our liberations are tied. Our struggles are intertwined. If you're not free, if you're oppressed, if you're still oppressed, then so am I. So one thing I want to do is an individual from the community who is still living, who has passed, who you love, I want people to shout out their name, and every time one of those names are shouted, we all say beautiful. And so here's how it looks. Kate McDonald. Someone from the crowd, let's give us a name. Beautiful. 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 Thank you. I fully, wholeheartedly embrace the role of being a part of Game Changers 902, but fully and wholeheartedly embrace the role. I've been saying to Kate that this is a true honor for me to be, and a once in a lifetime thing to be a part of the community. To be in this role is more than just the role. It's more than just the 16th to the 26th. It's something that we have to continue to do every single day. As people, as a city, as folks in positions, we have decisions to make every single day. And at the end of the day, when you go home, when you lay your head down, when you go to sleep, did you make the right decisions? Did you make the decisions that are going to put everyone in the best possible positions to succeed? That's the question you have to ask yourself at the end of the day. Thank you.
From the bottom of my heart, I would just want to thank Dorico, Kate, Trey. These are just remarkable folks. Thank you for your heartfelt words. Thank you for all the tremendous work that you folks are doing. As Haligonians, as a queer community, we are so lucky to have them. And as Halifax Pride, we're so grateful of the work that they're doing and that they're willing to share their voice with us. And we hear you. And we all have work to do together, and we're certainly committed to doing that work. So thank you guys so much. I would now like to welcome Mayor Mike Savage.
Thank you, Morgan, very much. I'm gonna wait for the bells to go here, folks. Happy Pride, everybody. It's a pleasure to welcome you here to Grand Parade, here on the ancestral and the unceded lands of the Mi'kmaq people for the 2020 Halifax Pride flag raising. Move this down a bit so I can see you. Do that, Paul. That better? Yeah, I think we're good. A big hello to everybody following along at home as well, virtually. And I want to acknowledge the many guests. We have the organizers, the Board of Pride, our special speakers, Andy, the Member of Parliament, Morgan and Adam, members of Game Changers 902, this year's Pride Ambassadors. I also want to acknowledge Susan LeBlanc, who I saw here, the MLA from Dartmouth North. Susan, thank you. I don't know if there's any other MLAs. I know that there's some other councillors who are here with me today. So the Deputy Mayor, Lisa Blackburn, with the dog mask over here. Councillors Nicol, Zarowski, and some others that I may not recognize. Councillor Sam Austin, thank you, sir. And many others. Our CAO, Jacques Dubé, the always resplendent, is here with us. The Fire Chief, Ken Stubing, who, look at that beautiful machine over there, folks. Isn't that something? Thank you, Chief. Cheryl Kopage-Jihu, who is our advisor on Indigenous issues. Who else is Dorico, who's a member of the staff at HRM. Anybody else? Who am I missing? Thank you all for being here today and the great turnout from our city. HRM is a proud supporter of Halifax Pride every year. And this year, with all this going on around the world, we know that it's more important than ever that we continue our allyship and support of the 2S LGBTQ+ communities. I want you to know that this year, the municipality is celebrating Pride festivities through the lens of the Indigenous Two-Spirit experience. A perspective that for far too long, like other marginalized groups, has gone unacknowledged or ignored. And that's why this year you'll notice the Mi'kmaq Grand Council flag alongside the Progressive Pride flag this year. At the municipality, we're working very hard to improve our relationship with the Mi'kmaq people in the spirit of truth and reconciliation. And having Mi'kmaq and Indigenous people working for the municipality, including Cheryl, our Indigenous Community Engagement Advisor, to help build those relationships. At the same time, are we good? At the same time, we're working with our partners at Halifax Pride, our Office of Diversity and Inclusion. Where's Roberto? I saw Roberto, you know, great job, brother. And others at Diversity and Inclusion to ensure that all segments of the 2S LGBTQ+ community in Halifax are free to celebrate their sexual orientation and gender identity in supportive and inclusive ways. I want to thank Halifax Pride for making Game Changers 902 this year's Pride Ambassadors, recognizing the important work that they're doing to fight anti-Black racism and provide a voice and platform for underrepresented Black voices in our community and beyond. I want to thank everybody involved in this year's festival for their hard work in providing an incredible array of in-person and online events under very difficult circumstances, and for their dedicated work protecting the rights and celebrating the diversity of our community since 1988. I'm going to read the Pride Proclamation. I just want to close before I do with this. It's said that we live in a time of crises, a health crisis that has led to an economic crisis, a social crisis that was highlighted with the murder in Minneapolis of George Floyd, but has been replicated many times around the world. We live with a climate crisis that is absolutely essential to the future of all of us. And those four crises have led to an even bigger crisis in the world, in my view. And that's a crisis of hope. And when you look at some of the leadership in the world, including you know who, it sometimes is very hard to find hope. But the hope comes from events like this, from Game Changers 902, from the community of Pride working for more justice and more equity. That's where the hope comes from. And today, we're part of that hope gathered here in Grand Parade on the traditional and unceded land of the Mi'kmaq people. We're all part of that hope. I want to read the proclamation for Halifax Pride. Whereas this marks the 33rd year of the Halifax Pride Festival, the Halifax Pride Society promotes the positive contributions of persons of diverse sexual orientations and gender identities in our Halifax regional community. The Halifax Pride organizes a festival each year to celebrate this diversity. The Halifax Pride Society encourages all members of the two-spirit, lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, intersex, queer, questioning, asexual, and pansexual communities to celebrate their sexual orientation and gender identity through Pride events and gatherings. The Halifax Pride Society fosters a greater understanding and acknowledgement of this diversity in Nova Scotia's capital region. Therefore, be it resolved that I, Mayor Mike, along with my colleagues on council and our staff, hereby proclaim July 16th to 26th, 2020 as the Halifax Pride Festival in the Halifax Regional Municipality, dated today, the 16th day of July, 2020, Mike Savage, Mayor. Now, I want to encourage everybody to get involved. By the way, Andy mentioned how proud he was as an MP to be in the House on important legislation. The highlight of my time as a member of Parliament was to be a member of the committee that brought marriage equality to Canada in 2005, 15 years ago this year. 5 years ago, almost to this very day, we held a marriage reaffirmation ceremony with same-sex and heterosexual couples, and it was a beautiful day, and the sun shone, and our Creator shone upon us. But I want to encourage you to get out, visit the Halifax Pride website, look at the vast virtual collection of 2S LGBTQ+ content and resources curated by our Office of Diversity and Inclusion. Halifax Public Library is one of the great institutions that could be anywhere. The Wabanaki Two-Spirit Alliance Public Group, Eskasoni Pride, and others, all available on the Halifax Public Library's website. Check that out. Now, normally we rush over to see the flags go up, but because of social distance, we're not going to rush over. I'm going to stay here. So we have Trayvon and not Trayvon, we have Dorico and Kate, in the spirit of Trayvon, are going to raise the flag to celebrate Pride and also the Mi'kmaq flag. So ladies and gentlemen, let's raise the flag for equality.
Coming, everyone.
Flag raising. Thank you all for being
Killing
here.
yourself alive.
Whether in person or online. I will again encourage folks to check out all the events from today until July 26th. Those are available on our website. We look forward to seeing you participating in this year's.
Yeah, right. Might as well have.